You're not paranoid.
I don't want to make you spit your tea out.
I'm trying to make an. Are you recording?
Yeah,
That way I hope I got my annoying tea slurp. That was like.
probably.
Now I'm gonna. Hairball. But for real, let's hear your best. So would you still be podcasting with me if I laughed like well, not. Let's hear your laugh.
I couldn't do it.
Oh. Ew, that's close to my real one, which I've slowly developed. That's actually making me laugh for real. It's like the breathless laugh. Like oh man. See, this is way more fun and just make ourselves laugh. We like to laugh and cry.
And then,
First we're gonna laugh, then we're gonna cry.
in that order.
In that order. 1, 2, 3.
Hello
Hey
and welcome
to You're Not Paranoid, the podcast.
with me, Katie.
And Kylie, that's me. We are giggly and happy to be here.
Yeah, hopefully some of that makes it in.
Hopefully you are feeling semi-giggly because the rest of this episode is not going to be quite as giggly.
No.
But we're just trying to get out the giggles now. Like, laugh it out, y'all.
I don't even know if that one will come up on the microphone.
No, laugh it out. That just sounds awful. Sounds like you're
Sounds
breathless.
like I got asthma.
Oh, no, that's not good.
It's okay. I used to. I can say it.
You tooted? Just say, it's toots.
I said I used to.
Is that like instead of it's the S-H-I-T, it's like, it's the toots.
No, but I'll start saying that.
So it's the toots.
The toots.
Oh, that's the toots, man.
It's the toots, man.
Well, this episode,
Number 5.
nope, number 4. Sign.
See?
Wait, no, you're right. Number 5. I'm
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
See? Kylie, have gotten all the episodes mixed up because guess what? We're not live right now. I mean, we're live for us. Like, we're alive talking about it, but we're not. I messed up is what I'm trying to say. So,
Episode 5.
this is episode 5, but we
Yes.
want to talk about episode 4
Real quick.
for a second. So, we realized something. We were talking about all of the conspiracy theories.
About who done it.
Who done
The
Tylenol murders, like the main part of it, not the copycats, but the actual suspect, because they were never found.
Yeah, but we missed like an important person who seemed
VIP.
kind of seems like the most likely.
But it's kind of weird that they didn't.
Well, they questioned him for a while.
But weren't they kind of like blew it off like, oh well, it must not be him.
Well, because he worked for one of the distribution, like the processing facilities, so I don't think
he had
they
the
wanted
most
him to.
access.
Mm-hmm.
So what was his name again?
Roger Arnold.
Like Arnold Palmer or
Hey,
like,
Arnold.
Oh,
I bet that's what
Arnold.
the police officer said.
get to the chopper.
No.
Roger Dunn? No, Roger
Oh,
Arnold.
snaps.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
thought that was a quote from something.
Well, it was the quote from the
Oh,
webpage, you know,
dear.
in the little square.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like, oh, snap. And it's like,
Katie made like a sour / getting punched in the eye face.
yes. So Roger Arnold
Mm-hmm.
worked at a facility, something that the Tylenol boxes went through.
Oh, so he had direct access to the
Yes.
Tylenol.
And apparently had bought cyanide and a one-way ticket to Thailand.
Oh, well, I mean, I do that sometimes.
I mean, why not?
Why not? Cyanide one would take a Thailand. That's not suspicious.
Nope. But
Dude's got to live.
apparently they interviewed him. Nothing came of it. Then he got paranoid and apparently shot and killed someone at a bar because
Oh, no.
he thought they ratted him out to the police.
Okay, but did he get in trouble for that?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
He went to jail
then
for
you
30 years and then he died in 2008.
Okay, well, that's good. Maybe they secretly thought he did it. Because I feel like if you shoot someone for ratting you out, but you're like, I'm getting ratted out for something I didn't do, but I'm still going to shoot you. That's not how that works.
Yeah. So we forgot to talk about that guy.
But he was probably he could be the dude.
He could be more likely than Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah. He could be, what's his name again? Not Ted Kaczynski. The dude. Lebowski?
The Big Lebowski?
The Big Lebowski. Jerry Lebowski. No. I forgot his name.
John. The dude.
Not John. I don't remember his name. We'll have to. We'll just cut that out.
We forgot it.
Oh, it's Jeff Lebowski.
Duh.
Anyways, or Jeffrey, if you want to be proper.
Mm.
But yeah, so that's what we were covering from last episode. And the last episode. Hold up. And then this episode.
Number
Cinco.
5. There you go.
5 fingers on this hand. Yeah, is about.
Is about.
This is about blind dates. I think we mentioned that. I can't remember for sure.
Online dating.
Well, yeah,
but
not
like
knowing the person prior to dating or going on a date.
Yeah, in person.
Or maybe multiple dates.
Yeah.
You don't know who you don't know who you don't know. You might think you know them.
Mm-hmm.
But as Katie's face says, you don't sometimes.
That's what my face is saying.
Yeah, it's very clear. But yeah, this episode is a little bit dark. So we're just giving you a heads up that if you're in a happy mood, we're sorry.
So what you can do is you can listen to this episode and feel really bummed out at the end, and then just listen to the beginning part of this episode.
Again,
and that's how you should end it.
Yes.
So, with some laughing.
Because we're trying to pretend fake laugh.
Yeah.
And make sure everything's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. So here we go.
I'll go first.
Okay, you go first. Yes.
Okay, I'll go first. All right. Setting. Summer of 2018.
Okay, that was like very recently.
New York City.
Okay.
Greatest city in the world.
The Big Apple.
The Big Apple. City so nice they named it twice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What happened to start this off was a woman, a 29-year-old woman, Samantha Stewart, a registered nurse in Queens. Her body was found by her brother.
Oh, no.
She was not alive.
I would think so when you word it like that. That's not good. Nervous laughing.
Yeah, I'm not laughing because, okay. Also, a few weeks before that, the NYPD was also investigating a rape case.
Okay.
I think because it's so recent, they didn't really specify how they concluded that these two cases were related, but they somehow figured it out.
Yeah, because I can imagine there's a lot going on in New York, considering how many people there are.
Yes. Yeah. So they somehow figured out that, they had a person of interest in mind, and it was Daniel Drayton.
Okay.
I don't know how old he is, but I think he was similar in age.
And I forgot. How old is she again?
She was 29.
29. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So they don't really say how they connected him, but they assume that this was all through online dating. He was contacting women and pretending being in relationships with them, in air quotes.
Oh, like having an online, like talking for a long time, and therefore it's like an online relationship?
Yeah. And then we'd be like, let's meet, in the hopes of attacking them. Again,
well, they didn't know that.
Well, they didn't know, but that was the point of contacting these women.
And does it say like how long they were kind of like invested in this relationship?
No, I think they got a lot of info from the ex-girlfriend who made it kind of out alive.
Oh my gosh.
Because she had scary run-ins with him.
Mm-hmm.
It started the same way, where they were talking online, and I think he might be some sort of sociopath or something like that. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't say.
Yeah.
But he was very good at manipulating these women and coming off as like a genuinely nice guy. And that's what the ex-girlfriend said, was that it's very scary because even starting out, he was very nice and kind and very like respectful.
Well, yeah, because you're on. It's
well,
like,
but then their relationship became like a in person, like a real like relationship.
Got it.
And so she said even then she wasn't really looking for like a committed relationship, and he was like, "That's fine. I just want to be your friend." And like anything that she said she wanted, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, me too," and be very like kind and go
that's
along
called
with
obsessive.
it. Yeah, it's kind of weird. And then at some point they're like, "Okay, well, I guess we can be boyfriend and girlfriend." Like this was a very long time.
Okay.
The long con. And then that's when she said he started kind of getting very possessive and weird. And then she's like, "Yeah, okay, so I'm done. Like, I'm not going to deal with you." And then he would be like outside her apartment and all this stuff. Somehow he got in. The last,
what?
Yeah, the last kind of, I think, encounter she had with him, he somehow got into her apartment or was in her apartment, and then it escalated. And he said, like, "I'm going to kill you," and started strangling her or trying to.
This is after they've already broke up?
I think when she was kind of trying to get her distance from him. But somehow she made it out alive. And so I think she provided a lot of info in terms of how he worked.
Or like his like how he, like, what's his game?
Yeah. So there was like an article that had an interview with her. That's where I got that part. So I don't know if, I'm assuming they talked to her afterwards. So that's kind of the backstory of how he operates. And so then they connect him to this murder and a rape in New York, but now he's in California. And this is all in a span of like a few weeks in terms of these cases being brought up in the NYPD. And then the first article I read.
Oh, wow.
So this was like mid to early July, and the article that was written was like July 30th.
So it's like
after
breaking
he was
news,
already,
basically.
So he was actually in California doing the same thing. They don't know. So that he was arrested in California and Los Angeles. Apparently, he had a woman he was holding against his will or her will. And then let me see. I don't know if she escaped. Yeah. So I don't know if they were like looking for him, and then like the LAPD found him, and then there was also a girl because like in his apartment. This
is still like developing, and all the facts are still coming out. Right? So it's not like a concluded.
So I don't know, or if the girl escaped and called the police, and then they realized who it was. So I'm not sure about that timeline specifically, but he was arrested, and he had another 28-year-old woman in his LA apartment who claimed to be being held there against his will. Why do I keep saying his will? Her will, after I think like refusing to go out on another date with him.
Yikes.
Or something. So that was that. And then, so of course it's not like great news, because before all this
so before he's holding two women against their will, and also all the other things in New York, this is all the other stuff. So in June of that year, he had been arrested for choking his ex-girlfriend. I think that might be the case of the ex-girlfriend I was talking about. The interviewed one.
So he was arrested for that. Released without bail on July 5th.
Without bail?
Yep. And then, of course, the judge and all that stuff involved with that were like, we did everything like to the law. Whatever.
Or, the minimum plus.
The charges were aggravated harassment and strangulation in the second degree.
How does that work?
I don't know.
How is that not first degree if it's your hands? I guess we'll have to, if you know, please tell us, because this is upsetting.
So he was released for that without bail, I guess while awaiting that trial. Also, he had prior arrest record in Connecticut in between 2011 and February of 2018. So just a few months before even that, He was arrested and found guilty on a number of different charges, also including strangulation.
Okay, so that's like his MO.
Yeah. So that all happened before the rape and the murder in New York. And then
well,
he
strangulation as in they're still alive.
Yes, I would assume. Because he would, yeah.
Really bizarre.
So, yeah. So that all happened before this.
Sorry, I'm glad they're alive. But it's just bizarre. Yeah, that he just wants to strangle them. I wonder, like...
progression or something.
Or, like, during something.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, intimacy or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not okay.
Yeah. So,
or if you're into that, talk about it beforehand.
Yeah. Consent.
But, yeah, that's... Anyway, sorry.
So the LA charges were attempted murder, forcible rape, false imprisonment by violence, and sexual penetration by a foreign object.
Ooh.
He faces a maximum sentence of more than 23 years to life in prison if found guilty. So now in LA, his bail is at $1.25 million.
That's more like it.
And so I'm assuming he's being charged, or he's gonna go through trial in LA first. And then New York wants to extradite him and charge him with the murder and the rape for the other cases.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that works, but I'm assuming he's going to jail for a long time. While in custody in LA, he claimed, oh, yeah, by the way, I've also killed 7 women, not just one. I don't know. I don't know the true definitions between the two, but that sounds more like a psychopath. Yeah, and I think he might have realized that the jig was up and was trying to set that foundation of being crazy, because then he was telling his lawyers and stuff that the voices in his head told him to kill these women.
How convenient.
And that it was mind control and all this stuff. But and the judge ruled that he was mentally competent to stand trial. The police assume that he met all these women through online dating sites.
Okay, so that whole thing about hearing voices in your head and being crazy, but yet somehow he's still able to understand that he's manipulating these women online.
That's what I'm saying.
To get them to meet him. That doesn't work like that.
And then just how, like, gentlemanly and charming the ex-girlfriend said he was in the beginning of their relationship. It's like,
you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So, but I'm glad that they found him mentally competent.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So that's the last thing I could find on the case, was that they were having a preliminary trial to see if he was able to stand trial.
Right.
And they said that he was.
Good, because obviously he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. That was kind of my major story.
But yeah, sorry, I just want to talk about this for a second, because
yeah.
I feel like anyone can sound however they want to sound to somebody online. Mm-hmm. Like, there's like that meme, and this is obviously not comparable in terms of, it's more of like a relatable thing. You know, the memes where it shows the girl texting and she's like, LOL, I'm dying, and her face is totally stone cold, like not laughing. Yeah. That's what I'm picturing. Like, you can say whatever you want. Doesn't mean that's the truth. I mean, that seems so obvious, but people still, they want to believe in it. Yeah. And of course, if you want to take someone for their word, and then to think that in person, he kept up the act. Yeah. Until all of a sudden it escalated to
that's
strangling.
Strangulation.
That's kind of a weird.
Yeah. So that's the tricky part of online dating, is exactly what you said, that you can pretend to be anyone you want.
And that's not even talking about catfishing. That's just being who you are, but not you're, concealing the fact that you're not crazy. A monster. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my specific story I have. And it's recent.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's scary. Let's see. I have little, like, quick anecdotes.
Oh,
stories.
Dear. I'm not one to ask. I'm not good at that.
Sure. So let's see. One of, like, Match.com kind of gets a lot of crap. Apparently, and then also, FYI, most of these websites for dating do not run background checks on anyone. And when you sign up, apparently they make you agree to those terms, like saying you acknowledge that you could be meeting anyone.
Yeah, well, it's kind of not their fault.
Yeah, but still.
I get what you mean, but like, yeah, they they don't run background checks for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just basically providing the means for people to meet other people.
Yeah, but still, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, no.
So,
it'd be nice if that was done.
Especially, well, yeah, I'll get to that part. So in the UK, Match.com was implicated in the case of a serial rapist, Jason Lawrence. In 2016, he was convicted of raping and or assaulting 7 women he met on that website. But he had contacted thousands of women.
Oh, dear.
So apparently, well, I guess what got Match.com in trouble was apparently women were flagging him on the site. I guess you can do that, like report inappropriate behavior or like people who are creepy.
Which is good. That they should have that.
Yeah, but there's not anything to connect those reports to the police or anything like that. So those complaints just kind of went nowhere, and then he was able to continue his crimes.
Yikes. Well, you would think that Match.com then either like disables his account or ask did they follow up with them or anything.
Yeah,
like
they
that?
claim that they delete accounts like that, but that's what the judge in that case said, was that there should be some sort of way to refer to the police when people are flagging.
Yeah, or they're like different levels of flagging. Like I think different websites have that where it's like, is this person being inappropriate like language or showing you inappropriate pictures or whatever it is. And if it's like acting like a murderer, maybe you click that button and then it reports it to the police. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the most severe one.
Yeah.
And then if anyone clicks that, then it gets sent to the police.
Like too sketchy to continue to talk to.
Yeah.
Call the police.
Yeah, but that was I think what the judge was just meaning in terms of like there's so much technology that there has to be some sort of way to make like people like that somehow
more visible to the police.
Yes,
because it's true. I feel like although it's been like technology and AIM, and I feel like that's where it kind of started, and then going from there to today with Match, all the dating websites, which when we were kids, like what, that would never, like what a crazy concept, but now it's the norm. That even though it's so popular, I feel like it seems like, if I could be wrong, law enforcement isn't yet on publicly visible on the internet to be looking at people. Like I feel like people who are criminals online seem like they are invisible to law enforcement because who's patrolling?
Exactly. There is no,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There should be like an online law enforcement group just scanning.
Yeah, there are. I have that written down somewhere, I think in my stats, but we can talk about it later. But yeah, there is no specific dating site crime fighting. But then I guess I can just picture people like on the opposite end being like, you can't control what people do on the internet. And
no, but they should be able to scan. I mean, well, I was just going to say too, I do know that I think sometimes there are profiles maybe made undercover. I could be
like
that
police.
So they are. Well, because you don't want to necessarily be visible. So I think that I take back what I said. I think they are doing that, and then they kind of like probe them, like put it kind of like when they'd have a girl online messaging.
Yeah, like catch a predator,
yes,
but online.
Yes. I think they do that. It's just probably not as visible to the public, so that they can't get caught. So I take back what I said. I think they're doing that,
and that's probably a lot more with like sex trafficking and stuff like that,
and like younger like kids and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it's true. I think there at least should be something to like you were saying for the other side of that. If the person seems creepy or you're getting a weird vibe. I mean, that's kind of sad, too, because you're prejudiced against, like, weirdos. Maybe they're just socially awkward versus, I guess it's what they're saying to you, right?
Yeah, and then that's what people are saying is, so it seems, because there's a lot of and not to freak everyone out, but there are a lot of stories of stuff like this happening, and the general response from these dating sites is, well, it's like our website is no different than society, and basically it's up to you to make like smart decisions and stuff like that. I don't know if she is the current CEO, but at the time, in 2013, Mandy Ginsberg, the Match.com CEO, was quoted as saying, "Match.com is no different than society. If you go out to a bar and meet someone that you don't know, you should be careful." So it's basically, if you meet someone online, you should be careful, and it's not our fault. If they kill you or rape you or
Yeah.
stalk you. But then people's response is that it's not really the same
Yeah.
as society, because the big factor here is people are paying you to be on that site.
Yeah.
So the response to that is, if I'm paying to be on your site, then you should be providing me with safety to some degree. That's the kind of like the opposite end of it, because they make like $3 billion in the US alone annually.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of money.
So
People want to meet their match.
yeah, so you would think that out of that $3 billion, you could allot some of it to background
Or
checks.
create a button to report a murderer.
Yeah,
Like
have
potential murderer,
Mhm.
creeper.
Yeah, or even have like a division, like you were saying, that kind of they make those fake profiles and try to like catch bad guys that way.
I mean, maybe they are, and we
just
don't know, which is good.
Yeah.
But I suppose it would be nice if there was more opportunity for people who are victims
Mm-hmm.
to then report it directly.
Yeah.
And something be done,
Yeah.
or at least an investigation or something like that.
Yeah, because there's another article I was reading that basically most of these sites, the maximum that they do is have some sort of like how to be safe link that's buried way deep into their website. And that's basically all they provide in terms of safety. It was like how to be safe.
I mean, if nothing else, I would think that would be one of the first things that's available, because it is, prevalent.
Yeah.
So, but people don't like to talk about it. And that's the part
yeah.
that's why it keeps I feel like that's why it keeps happening, is no one talks about it.
And I think that's what a lot of the articles were kind of getting at, was that the online dating is so much more popular and prevalent these days, but it kind of seems like the reporting of crimes or being safe or somehow making it safer is not going along with that.
Like the trend of
the trend, yeah.
kind of like awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and then not only crime, like in terms of like sexual assaults and that kind of crime, there's also, I don't know if I wrote it down, but I think in terms of like financial scamming, that's really big for dating sites too. That's like in the millions of dollars every year that people get scammed out of.
Yikes.
And then I guess on Grindr, there was geolocation, and then I guess in Russia, who's not as gay friendly, people in Russia would use those geolocations and then go and find those like gay men and attack them and stuff.
That's awful.
So
yeah, I guess it's like that. That's what I was thinking too, is that you need to find that middle area of, not violating privacy, but also keeping the online public community safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, geotagging, that seems...
I think they took it off after that, but...
Yeah.
Just...
I mean, you can opt in or opt out,
Mm-hmm.
but why would you think that that's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's kind of... On that note, those are the little stories I have.
Okay.
You want to do the stats after?
If you want.
Okay.
All right. So, this is going to be a story about a woman who got set up on a blind date, and most news outlets didn't cover the details leading up to this night, which are, like, in my opinion, all the circumstances where the night could have changed in some way, and it kind of gives me the chills to talk about it, and that's why I want to, like, bring these things up. And this story is basically a combination of the worst possible situations that then led to her murder. And I think they're important to share because there's a lot of moving parts. And I think that they're all very key and relatable.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Even before you start.
Oh, no.
So this is a setup, like mutual friends?
So, yeah, I'm going to.
Okay.
That's part of the story.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, exactly. So, that's what I'm saying. Like, the news outlets kind of cover the end part that I'm going to talk about because it's more of like the shocking aspect, but still the concept of going out on a blind date set up by someone that you trust,
Yeah,
and that's the thing, like, you can't blame her, you can't blame her friends, you can't blame it really is the worst possible combination of circumstances. And it makes me want to cry.
I know.
But it's like
so
really,
sad.
it's just really awful. But it's good to be aware of it because it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Elsa, that was the name of the girl who got murdered, it didn't work out for her.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So we're going to go down under to
Ooh.
Australia.
Oh, good eye, mate.
Please don't hate us for doing that. But I
The
couldn't
rest
help.
of the episode.
I literally wrote that down. The hey up. Oh, I can't. I'm not even sure.
Good eye, mate.
Good day, mate.
Going down under.
Let's throw a shrimp on the barbie.
Let's only talk in Australian accent.
This whole story will be an Australian accent.
Oh, mate. Oh,
Put
mate.
on your sunnies. This is gonna be a doozy.
It's rough as.
I don't even know if that's the right thing to say. But anyways, okay. So let's get back to it. January 30th, 2010. 28-year-old David Patrick Clifford meets up with a couple of friends. Well, he meets up with friends who are a couple. During the evening, the girlfriend of that couple has a phone call from her friend from work, and who's a fellow hairdresser, and her name is Elsa Corp. They chat about meeting the next evening to get together at the Ocean Blue Bar in Melbourne. I'm going to call it Melbourne because I know it's Melbourne, but
No, well,
Australians
they
get
say
upset because they call it Melbourne, so I'm going to call it
Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Mhm.
But I understand it's spelled more Melbourne, like Jason
They don't
Bourne.
say ours.
They don't say ours, but for them, I'm going to call it Melbourne. So that night, while David's friend, the girlfriend, was on the phone with Elsa, he also talks to her, and he's like, oh, I want to know more about her. And he suggests that they all meet up at the ocean, meet up the next day, like the two were already planning on, kind of like a double date. So the next day, that girlfriend gives David Elsa's phone number so that the two can meet up. So David texts Elsa, and they set up a blind date to meet up that night at the Ocean Blue Bar at 10 p.m.
So the same one that they were at earlier.
No,
Okay.
they were not there. This is where I'm going to tell you. This might get a little confusing, but I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
It was basically the two girls were going to meet up, and he's like, let's meet up there.
Okay.
So Elsa then we're now to the next day. Elsa meets up with some other friends at 7:30 that evening. So remember, the date is set for 10. So she gets to the bar earlier at 7:30 to meet up with a set of friends who are not the original couple. And I imagine that during that evening with those friends, she was sharing that she was nervous about the date or something like that. Who isn't about a blind date? Because at some point, the girlfriend of the couple she met up with shares a pill with her.
Oh, no.
So maybe to relax or something like that. So at some point, those friends leave, and Elsa's at the bar alone, and she calls a friend who's now we're going to call friend number 3.
Okay.
And she tells her, she's like, hey, I'm nervous. I took a pill. I'm not feeling well. Being a good friend and knowing, tells her she's going to go on a date soon. She's like, you know what? Call me back in 20 minutes. Let me know you're okay.
Nice.
Yeah, she's good, Some more time goes by. Remember, she got there at 7:30 that night, and the date's not till 10.
That's a really late date, by the way.
I know. That is a really late date. But maybe, she's
just for
she's
drinks, maybe.
I don't know where she's from, so maybe she didn't want to hit traffic. She's like, I'm going to meet up with some other friends. Let's just stay at the bar. So while she's waiting, she meets another man at the bar.
Oh.
Who's also single. And they hit it off, but reluctantly, Elsa tells him, actually, I'm already waiting for a blind date. But she likes him, and she gives him her number. And she tells the guy, maybe call me later, assuming, what if the blind date doesn't go? Yeah. What if the blind date doesn't go well?
You gotta keep your options open.
Yeah. I mean, more power to you. I haven't met this guy yet. Who knows? So while they're actually still talking, her blind date calls her. He arrives. That's David. So David gets there around 10 in his mother's car, which I put in parentheses, lame. But, everyone's circumstances are different, whatever. So he picks her up. And about 30 minutes into the date, Elsa calls her hairdresser friend, the girl that had set them up, that David was having dinner with the first time that learned about her. She tells her friend that David is going to take her out to Motel Nightclub. Don't know what that is, but apparently it's a nightclub in Australia. And she tells her that they should all meet up for a double date, kind of like how they originally were talking about. The friend says maybe, but unlikely. It's already like 10:30 at this point, so personally, I don't want to decide to go out on a double date to a nightclub at 10:30, but that's just me. Maybe I'm lame, but anyways.
Parentheses lame.
10 minutes later, 10:43 p.m., Elsa then calls that friend who she had called earlier saying that she didn't feel well. And she says that she's okay. No, sorry. So she calls the friend that she had shared the pill with at the bar. And that friend who she had dinner with is at Motel Nightclub.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that maybe they had discussed going to Motel Nightclub, and so that's why David's then going to take her there. And Elsa asks where the Motel Nightclub is, because they plan on meeting up with her and her boyfriend there. Again, maybe they discussed it during dinner. We don't really know. But the thing is, he doesn't take her there.
Oh, no.
Instead, David takes her to the City Park Hotel on Kingsway in South Melbourne. And the CCTV footage shows them parking and walking into the lobby, acting normal, not looking drunk or drugged out, which will be important later on. They get the room key from the receptionist, they head upstairs, and Elsa calls her hairdresser friend again, the one who had originally said unlikely that we're going to come out. But this time it's about 11:17, and she's like, oh, come to the hotel. We're not at the nightclub, but, let's have a little double date. Like, kind of, I would feel more comfortable if you were here kind of thing. Like, you set me up with this guy. Come out with me. Her friend says, okay, possibly, and also asks her to bring alcohol and super glue.
Super glue?
Yeah, super glue. Why, you ask? David had removed the smoke detector, and he needed to fix it. Not suspicious at all. Because, every time I go out, I bring out alcohol and super glue.
Yeah.
But anyways. 11:34 p.m. So now Elsa's still in the hotel room with David. This is where she actually calls that friend back, who told her to call me back in 20 minutes. She did not call her back in 20 minutes. I think maybe she forgot. So she calls her and she says, I'm fine. But when asked, Elsa shares that she had taken some strong ice. I had to Google that. Ice is meth.
Oh.
So but it was because she was asked. So maybe her friend had like a gut feeling, or maybe she could tell she seemed like a little off. So the two on the phone decide like, okay, let's meet up the next day. Maybe to like go for the blind date or make sure she's still okay. Cause leading up to that, she wasn't feeling well. And now she's saying she feels some strong, and now she's taking some strong meth.
And alcohol.
And alcohol, yeah. So she's like, you know what, girl, let's meet up the next day. So 11:51 p.m., still at the hotel, Elsa calls the guy that she had met at the Ocean Blue Bar earlier that night. So the guy that she had kind of hit it off with. He was already at Motel Nightclub, and he was wondering if she was going to be able to make it there. Maybe she mentioned it to him at the evening, having had dinner with those friends, and then met him, call me later. He actually called her. Maybe let's go out to the bar or to the nightclub. But she, says no. 12:34 a.m., Elsa calls her hairdresser friend back a third time.
Jeez.
And the friend says that they're not going to be able to make it out, but let's meet up the next day. I'm just saying, if my friend called me 3 times, I think I would, not to blame her friend, but I'm learning from this story, like if my friend calls me 3 times, maybe like it's like
on a date,
on a blind date, like get out there kind of thing. So now we're at 1:02 a.m. and Elsa texts the girlfriend that they were going to meet up with at Motel Nightclub, asking where they are, because she was going to meet up with them at Motel Nightclub originally. She was the one who asked, oh, where is it? But then he took her to the hotel instead. So I think that she was wanting that friend to come to the hotel, but the friend says that they're leaving the nightclub, and then no other texts were exchanged. I looked it up. Motel Nightclub and the hotel that she was staying at were only 5 minutes away from each other, which is really upsetting. So that evening, the reason I gave you all those details is like those are the things I could see myself doing: staying in touch with friends, like you're on a blind date, reaching out to friend, like come over, reaching out to the friend who set you up, following up with your friend who had told you to keep her updated how you're feeling. So that evening, about 30 guests were staying at the City Park Hotel. Some guests heard noises that they describe as a bumping or a deep thumping noise, a banging, and a loud noise like someone banging on the wall with a hammer, or like large rocks falling, between the hours of 12:30 and 2:30 a.m. Some of them said that they heard a woman groaning, while others said that they heard a man cussing. Some say it was only for a couple minutes. Others said it was up to an hour. So I'm guessing depending on how close they were to the room.
Yeah.
So around 2 a.m., the hotel fire alarm control panel signals that room 306 smoke detector is activated. The night manager goes up to the room, knocks on the door, but no response. He assumes maybe the people were smoking with the windows closed. So he goes back downstairs and he resets the alarm on the control panel.
No.
Maybe it's a common thing, that
Probably,
they're used to.
Yeah.
20 minutes later, it happens again. He goes upstairs, knocks on the door, no response, goes back down, resets the control panel. I put maybe too lenient. At that point, maybe it's like, if nothing else, like for the people. Anyways, around 2:40 a.m., a man staying at a hotel across the street hears the sounds of screaming and looks outside to see David. He didn't know it was David, but later, obviously, they found out it was David. Running to his car carrying a black bag and drives away with the car tires screeching. While fleeing, he hits 2 different pedestrians on 2 different intersections due to driving on the wrong side of the road and running red lights.
Wow.
2:53 a.m., now the City Park Hotel's main fire alarm goes off. The night manager, the guy who had earlier dismissed the smoke detectors, who is now probably pooping bricks, goes to the room for a 3rd time and sees smoke coming out from under the door.
No.
He opens the door and there's so much smoke he can't tell if anyone's inside.
Jeez.
Runs, gets the fire extinguisher to try to put it out, but it isn't cutting it. So he immediately goes and evacuates all the hotel guests from the building.
Does he call the fire?
I want to say that it goes off
Automatic.
automatically because the fire brigade, as
Oh,
they're
yes.
called,
Yes.
arrive 4 minutes after the alarm goes off and they put out the fire. Once the smoke clears, they discover Elsa's body lying on the bed, partially face down with no signs of fire-related injuries.
No.
Surrounding the scene, once they looked around, were gruesome signs of her murder. There was blood all over the walls and the furniture. The mirrors were smashed. There was a bloody towel rail and a bloody steam iron
Jeez.
laying on the ground.
Iron. A steam iron.
Yeah, steam. I think that just means like a regular
Just a...
for ironing your clothes. They wrote steam iron. I'm going to write steam iron. We're international here. Fire brigade.
Yes.
Yeah, fire brigade versus fire department. So looking around, they noted that there were other various items destroyed, like the AC unit was pulled away from the wall and hanging by cables. And just overall complete disarray. There were holes in the ceiling where the smoke detector was, and it looked like a tornado went through the room.
Jeez.
Like, I didn't write it all out, but it was like the lamps were broken, the headboard of the bed was like upside down,
What?
like tables, like I'm talking disaster.
Jeez.
The examination of the scene revealed that the fire was started by igniting the bedding, but there were no signs of an accelerant or accidental combustion. Looking to see what could have started the fire.
Yeah.
But then they found a cigarette lighter on the floor, so like, aha, that's probably it.
Yeah.
So now to Elsa. Elsa was this is what a quote from the Herald Sun, who's like a big newspaper reporting on this. She was so badly beaten that her mother didn't recognize her.
Oh my God.
So I'm just gonna describe it because later this will become like reason for why he is guilty. Anyways, let me just tell you. So she had an electrical She had an electrical cord around her neck and severe injuries to her upper body. Post-mortem examination revealed that over 60 lacerations on her head and neck,
Jeez.
which they determined to be consistent with glass from the shattered mirrors.
Oh.
She had broken bones in her face, skull, and ribs. Her spinal cord was severed. And this is really upsetting too. I mean, all of it's upsetting, but in quotes, due to a rotational force being applied.
Oh.
The examiner noted a lack of injuries to her hands, which they think is because maybe she was incapacitated, like unconscious or dead, and continued to beat her, so she was unable to defend herself.
Mm-hmm.
And the official cause of death was being the combination of all the head and neck injuries and the significant blood loss. So that next day, because, I mean, she had been in contact with all her friends,
Mm-hmm.
and the person who set her up knew where she was and what was happening.
And who
it was. So the next day is now February 1st, 2010. The police go to David Patrick Clifford's house and arrest him. Examining his house, they find a black bag that he was seen leaving with in the bushes outside of his home. And inside the bag was a hotel and his shirt, which are both covered in blood, and some of Elsa's personal belongings. Also in the bushes were Elsa's purse and a piece of the smoke detector from the room where he actually murdered her, where he disabled the smoke detector. So it's just, obviously he was in some kind of not right place, because thinking that you can just toss him in the bushes outside your house, like, oh, don't have to worry about this. Like, that's not how that works. Not saying that he should have hid them better, but it's like, that's, thank goodness it's like it's like really available because right there. So upon being taken in, David claimed that he was attacked by Elsa and that he sustained various injuries. That he had been assaulted with an iron in the bathroom poles, which in the investigation, because they had found the bloody iron in the bloody towel rail, the examiner had said that Elsa's body was consistent, like the injuries were consistent with those things being used. So he's like, oh no, I was assaulted with those specific things, so how does he know that? Not like he isn't already guilty, but he's digging himself deeper in this hole. And as you would guess, his medical exam showed that he had no injuries, and rather he had a small scratch on the back of his neck and bruising in his knuckles and his legs. Just so for someone to be claiming that they were attacked and that's all you have compared to him being, so you get it. So who is this guy? So he's the oldest of 4 kids, and his parents were separated when he was 7 due to domestic violence. He himself has a long history of drug and alcohol abuse, starting to drink when he was 12 years old, which then escalated to binging twice a week, blacking out every time.
At 12?
Yeah. At 13, he started smoking cannabis, and by 16, it was a daily thing. By 17, he was using amphetamines, ice, which is meth, ecstasy, cocaine, and LSD. And as we would guess in these kind of stories, he has a history of being violent and reckless while under the influence. He had gone to therapy several times, but because obviously he was struggling with drug abuse and then also being violent. But despite the therapy, he continued down this path. So he actually had been priorly, is that a word? He has prior convictions that go back to 1998.
Wow. And this was 2010.
Yes. So this happened in 2010. So his convictions actually go back to when he was 18. I'm just going to read you a list. So these are from 1998 till 2010. These include aggravated burglary. Wow, that's really hard to say.
Burglary.
Hamburglar. No. Aggravated burglary on the home of a 76-year-old woman. False imprisonment. Intentionally causing injury. Assault. Resisting police. Harassing a witness. And breaching an intervention order, which were both by his ex-girlfriend. She made those claims for the last 2 things, the harassing a witness and basically violating like a, what do you call that?
A restraining order?
Thank you. Restraining order. Drug trafficking, dangerous driving, and possession of an unregistered firearm.
Wow.
Not a great record.
No.
Mind you, Elsa didn't know all of this prior to her date.
Did the friends?
I don't know. I'm going to guess no, because I don't think anyone would set them up with a friend. And we don't know, it doesn't say how long, or at least what I read, didn't say how long like the friend knew him. So who's this? I mean, if you have a friend who's a nice guy.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So at first, when Elsa's murder went to trial, David was charged with murder, arson, and 2 counts of reckless conduct, endangering lives, which are those 2 people he hit while fleeing. And shortly after, I think it was about 3 weeks, it said, he pled guilty to murder and all the other charges were dropped. So since he is like, okay, we're going to save the court and the, judicial system time and money, we're going to drop the other charges. So on March 22nd, 2012, at David's sentencing, it was actually at the Victorian Supreme Court. The judge explained that her decision for the sentencing is based on the fact that, and this is in quote, he was acting in a drug-induced psychosis, but it is no excuse. This part's not quoted, but back to quoting. You knew full well that you were prone to behaving aggressively and violently when drug affected.
Mm-hmm.
So although you were, under the influence and maybe you don't remember conveniently, it does not excuse that fact because you provided those means for you then to murder her.
Mm-hmm.
The judge also noted that is on record that despite pleading guilty, like, yeah, okay, it was me, not like a martyr, but he was apparently remorseful.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't excuse it in any way or undermine the fact that his full intention was to kill Elsa, not to cause her serious injury, meaning that this was not an accident, drugs are not an excuse, and you murdered her, period.
Mm-hmm.
Those weren't the judge's words at the end, but
I think you would say full stop.
Yeah.
In Australian.
Full stop. So the judge sentenced David Patrick Clifford to 23 years in jail with 19 years until eligible for parole, stating that, quote, this should allow you an adequate opportunity to undertake drug counseling and learn to live drug free. Because basically they're saying that all of these things happened because he was in a drug-induced psychosis.
Yeah, but it's still his has choice.
Yes. And he knows that because he had done other things. I'm not talking about them all right this second, but he had already done, like, some of his other convictions that I read were under the influence. So I think at one point he had actually, beat up beat up a bar owner while under the influence as well. And it's like, okay, well, that's no excuse because you know that you get violent. This isn't the first time. So there's more.
No.
It's good that he got put away for now, at least. But the newspaper that I mentioned earlier called the Herald Sun wrote a story about the Victoria's, so Melbourne is in Victoria, the state of Victoria, wrote about Victoria's state parole scandal a few months later, which revealed a secret police report.
Oh, no.
It stated that 11 Victorians had been murdered by parole violators in less than 2.5 years, and that, quote, 7 of the 11 murders may have been prevented if police who had previously dealt with the offenders over other matters had known that they were on parole. So of course...
they don't even know that they're on parole.
Yep, so here we go. So, of course, police are scrambling because this report is out to the public. And they were quick to blame it on a failure in the police computer system. But after review, of course, there was human error. We can't always blame the computers.
They're smarter than us.
They're smarter than us, but also, you have to enter in. You still have to do your job to provide the computer.
They tell them to.
Yes.
For now.
Until they become AI. And Sunny takes over. And Will Smith has to save the world. So in 3 of the 7 cases, community corrections caseworkers, this is a quote. In 3 of the 7 cases that I mentioned earlier, community corrections caseworkers were advised that the parolees had been arrested over other matters, but failed to pass the information on to the parole board. Elsa's case was one of those 3.
Are you serious?
Yes. So the corrections in the state of California, corrections in the state of Victoria was notified that David Patrick Clifford was arrested 3 times while on parole.
Wow.
So this is a quote. I quoted a lot of this because it was worded really well. So I'm just kind of reading the article. So basically the rest of this is a quote, but when he murdered Miss Corp, so that's Elsa's last name, and they're going to call him Clifford. That's his last name. So when he murdered Miss Corp, he was on parole for drug trafficking. He had already breached parole and a suspended sentence following other earlier convictions and was awaiting a sentence over the bashing of a bar owner. The Corp family then sued this. How awful is that? So knowing this, and the Corp family didn't find out about this until after the trial was over and until this
article
police report. Yeah, the article. So they found out, like the rest of the public, that their daughter, basically got murdered by someone who maybe
should have been in jail.
Exactly. So it says, the Corp family then sued the state of Victoria because, quote, it was the failure of authorities to keep Clifford off the streets. Miss Corp's parents, Andy and Gilly, said yesterday that, this was them being interviewed, that no one had taken responsibility for the daughter's death or said that they were sorry.
Wow.
This is the father, Mr. Corp, who actually used to be a UK policeman. It's absolutely gutted us because it was a very bad failure in the system. For the sake of a bit of training or procedures or supervision, the system fell over and failed us.
Wow.
Our daughter would probably be alive today if there hadn't had been these stuff-ups. Elsa's, so that was the dad kind of, you know, sharing his feeling. Like the whole family was just absolutely distraught. And actually, they were interviewed and they made a statement in public on TV saying that they were not satisfied with the sentencing and that anyone who does that should be put away for life.
Yeah.
And finding out this later is just, I mean, they weren't talking about this because they didn't know at that point when they were saying they weren't happy with the sentencing. But I mean, come on, that's just so awful. Insult to injury.
Yeah.
It's just to think that this didn't, not that every murder doesn't have to happen, but to think that the government allowed it to happen in a really awful way. One good thing, I suppose, if there's anything good to take out of this, is that her murder then became, Elsa's murder by David Patrick Clifford, then led to it being used as a case study for, and it's called The Review of Victoria's Adult Parole Framework. So then it led to, like, why did this happen? How did this slip through our hands? How can we prevent this from happening again? I mean, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, she wasn't the only one. There were like 7 other cases, or there's actually like 11 other cases, and then I told you the stats. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that these things didn't have to happen, and those are the only ones that they know about. Yeah,
that's awful.
So they are, I didn't talk about it in detail, but they are revising the system, and this is from 2010. Actually, he was sentenced in 2012, so then obviously it's been, 7 years? I can do math. Since then, I'm sure that they're taking the measures that they need to then modify how parolees get, reported to the the corrections, and that's in Australia. Yeah. So that can't be the only country in the world that this happens to. Yeah. Kind of like your case. That's when you started talking about how he had prior convictions, and he wasn't on parole, but he got off. Was he on parole?
He was released without bail for the one strangulation case,
but not on parole.
Well, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. No, sorry. It's just like you'd think. I don't know how parole works, if you can go on parole without ever being in jail. But
yeah, because I don't know if because it listed a string of his crimes, but I don't know if he was in jail for any of those, or if they were like fines or whatever. Yeah. So it's pretty awful to think that these are all things that, repeat offenders, they obviously have these problems. And in this case, like the dad said, the system failed his daughter, and that's why I said at the beginning, like, all these details are going to seem like a little mundane at first, but she did everything that anyone would do. Yeah. Reaching out to family and friends and that kind of thing leading up to that night. So wow. But yeah, just combination of the worst possible circumstances. And just like a side note, apparently he had been on a 3-day bender leading up to that, which I don't know at what point in the trial that came out, because he had seen his friends the day before. So you'd think that if he was acting like all like itchy and creepy, that they wouldn't be like, oh, date my friend. Yeah. So he must have been used to, he'd been doing this since he was like, what, 12? Used to doing that. Yeah. And so the fact that they're blaming her murder on him being in a drug-induced psychosis and he doesn't remember anything. He was sleep deprived. I know that your brain goes crazy when you're on drugs, number 1, and number 2, when you're sleep deprived, but he murdered her. Yeah. That's not okay. And the fact that it was only, it is 22, I think it's 22 years, but 19 years till parole just still doesn't feel justified. Nope. That's not right. Especially for the family. If you take someone's life, then you deserve to have your life taken.
And it wasn't,
not necessarily death penalty, but I don't want to go down that road, but you shouldn't have a possibility of having a life.
Free will. Considering, and that's where the judge was saying that you need to go be drug free, because basically all his crimes were because he was under the influence. If you've been under the influence for 16 years, like he was 28 and he's doing these things since he was like 12. he needs some serious help.
Something.
I mean, that's just like a regular blind date, you know,
Mhm.
getting set up by friends and trying to meet up with people. But she was trying to do a double date,
Yeah.
which is what I would do if I was going to go on a blind date.
You would almost think that being set up by friends would be safer
Yeah.
than online.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. This is why it's so relatable. It's just like it could be
Mm-hmm.
a normal night, and I don't know. Obviously, like they did mention like she was under the, luckily the newspapers didn't like emphasize the fact that
Like
she
make
had
it
also
her fault.
had also taken illegal drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously that doesn't help.
Mm-mm.
But people take illegal drugs all the time. They don't go around murdering people.
Yeah.
And her murder wasn't just on by any means an accident. He
Mm-mm.
took many measures to kill her.
Yeah.
You mentioned some
Ooh.
straight up stats
Straight up stats.
earlier.
Yeah. Going back to dating websites,
Mm-hmm.
there are not a lot of stats available
Okay.
just off the bat
Yeah.
because people aren't tracking them. In the U.S., apparently the FBI collects data on, quote, romance fraud
Romance fraud.
and online sexploitation,
Ooh.
but not anything about physical assaults linked to dating sites.
Sorry, what's romance fraud?
I would assume that's the thing that I was kind of mentioning earlier of, you know, connecting with someone online and getting them to like you, and then, oh, but I'm casually mention, oh, I'm in like financial trouble, and then
like
the
I'll take you out on a date if you pay me $10,000.
yeah, and then the person's like, oh, but I really like you, so I'll loan you some money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's romance fraud.
I like the name of that, by the way.
It's very
It's kind of to the point. And sad.
Yeah. But so apparently there's a national crime agency in the UK who is kind of trying to start to track these crimes related to app dating sites. They say, so it's still rare. So even though you can find all these stories about, you know, bad stuff happening,
Yeah.
there's just so many people on it that they are still considered rare to be attacked or any other sort of crime related to dating sites. But this national crime agency is seeing the number of instances of it rising fast enough for them to categorize it as a new type of crime.
Good. Well,
So
is it because they just aren't reporting it before, maybe?
well, I think that there's not really, so people might be reporting it,
Mhm.
but the police might not be asking how they met this person, or there's no database for saying like, okay, this crime happened. Oh, and she or he met the person through an online dating
Got
site.
it. Like a specific category.
Yeah, there's not really a category for it.
Got it.
But they have, I get, not like a new type of crime, but they've now flagged a new type of sexual offender.
Got it.
And that is usually a man, and he is less likely to have committed any prior crimes, but exploits the ease of access to like a whole bunch of women through by what they called the armchair approach of like meeting essentially victims.
We mean just like sitting in your armchair,
Yeah.
smoking a pipe,
Mm-hmm.
talking
And just
to women that you're
scrolling through
victimizing.
potential victims. So they kind of are trying to look at that, or like they have their eye on it now.
Okay.
But it's hard to tell if these dating app related crimes are actually increasing,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's just that the number of people on sites are increasing. So obviously
the
the
same?
more, but yeah, but the more people you have on these sites, just because of odds,
You mean like the
the odds of crimes happening when there's more people on it is also going to rise.
Right.
So that's what they're trying to say. Like, is there actually more crime happening related to these sites, or is it just because more people are using them?
right. So maybe the rate's the same, but
Mm-hmm.
the scale is increasing.
The one article I read tried to pull two different stats together to kind of
Mhm.
say that actually like online dating crimes are increasing. So in 2013, Pew Research Center in the U.S. found that between 2018 and 2013, the proportion of American adults using dating services tripled. And then in Britain, attacks related to online dating increased almost sixfold over roughly the same period.
Weird.
So those people are concluding that actually the instances of crimes related to dating websites is increasing.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many people are using it.
Yeah.
So, and then also fun fact, that 1 in 10 sex offenders are online.
Ooh.
And I think I was reading different accounts, but I think upwards of like 10% of accounts are fake.
Dang.
So
That's actually a lot. Well,
yeah.
when you say fake, do you mean like fake people who are the offenders? Or just fake in general?
Fake in general.
Like catfishing.
Or like trying to do like financial scams and stuff like that.
Romance fraud.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, but the sex offender thing is scary. And then that's going back to how like majority of these websites don't screen anyone.
I see. Full circle.
Yes.
Freaky facts.
Yeah. So.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Dang.
So knowing that, to keep yourself safe.
Don't go online ever again.
Don't go online. Just kind of know that going into it. I know that a lot of people use online dating sites, and there's a lot of happy stories too of people,
of course, yeah,
finding love and getting married and all that stuff. So not to totally discourage everyone.
No. When we say something like don't go online, like we're just kidding.
Yeah.
That's just being like
negative.
The easy way out.
Yeah.
But even if you meet people in person, like
so.
people are scary regardless.
Yep.
It's just, I think, easier to have a longer fake relationship online.
Yeah.
To then make them trust
and establish that relationship before even meeting them. And then you're like, oh, well, I know them, so it's okay if I go to their house on the first like physical meeting in person.
Yeah. And then you get to their house and you're like, maybe dating someone who lives in their mom's basement and has an eye twitch and is really creepy. It smells like old cheese. It's not a good idea. I'm just imagining, that's like what I'm picturing, like the worst possible.
Yeah, I kind of went through the Reddit wormhole of reading different like first blind date horror stories, and then also like online dating horror stories. So that's really fun to read if you have time. Yeah. But in terms of staying safe, knowing that they don't screen for even sex offenders. There was people saying that, and obviously this wouldn't be for every person you haven't contact with on these dating sites, but if there's someone you want to meet, it's not a bad idea to run a background check on them.
How do you do that?
There's actually, I was reading an article that there's a woman in the UK who started a private investigation group specifically for dating sites.
The opposite side of that too is like, hi, like, how are you? How's your, kind of like when people go into your Instagram and you accidentally go like 3 years back and it was like, oh, remember that time or they bring up like that. Sorry. They bring up like, oh yeah, I went to Hawaii once with my cousin. Oh yeah. Is that so-and-so? Because you looked at their picture and so you're like familiar with their whole lives.
Yeah. And that's what they say is to look these people up on, just Google them or find their other social media, make sure they're not like lying to you. Yeah. But then, not to keep pooping on Match.com. So apparently in 2011, they did begin screening U.S. members against the sex offender registry. Okay. But that was only after a woman sued them saying that she was raped by, I'm assuming someone who was a sex offender.
Right. Like registered.
Yeah.
And was online.
Yeah.
That's a thing too, right? Because, registered sex offender isn't like, you could be peeing in public and then get on that list. So I suppose if you did have the background investigation, maybe it could specify what happened.
Yeah. So just doing your own research because no one else is going to do it for you.
No.
The basic one of not meeting this person, no matter how well you think you know them online. Don't meet them somewhere private.
Yeah. Meet a public place. Like maybe double date.
Yeah. Don't give out your personal info. Like even if you're trying to get to know someone, maybe not giving out all that personal info.
Yeah, like here's my address.
Yeah, this is where I work. Yeah.
And that's like a whole other conversation of privacy and like what you can and can't not give out. But yeah, once people get emotionally invested, I feel like it's really easy to trust someone. Maybe do like a FaceTime.
Yeah.
That way you see that maybe.
And then if they don't want to, then that's probably they're either lying with their picture or they are some sort of creeper or something like that.
Yeah. Because you can't really, they just put up like a picture of a really attractive guy and like mouth, you know, when they can like cut out the mouth.
Yeah.
It's like, hello, like, how are you doing? Or something like that. Like putting the lips through the paper.
Yeah.
That would be awful. If you see that,
Yeah.
that's a red flag.
Report it.
Report it.
That's another
immediately.
thing too, is report
Well,
anything.
take a screenshot because it's hilarious,
Yeah.
and then report it.
Report any person that makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, suspicious behavior. Go with your gut.
Don't let them pick you up or drop you off at your home.
Yeah, maybe like a couple blocks away.
Mm-hmm. Or just meet them there.
Or meet them there. Yeah. At least that girl, that's the thing. It's just following your gut, being aware. Of course, it's easier for us to say that sitting on a chair and a couch.
Mm-hmm. Trust no one.
But just go with your gut. I think people feel pressure to date, seeing all their friends in relationships and stuff. Like, just
don't worry, you have us now.
You don't need to date. Just listen.
Listen to us.
Have fun. Listen to your heart.
Listen to your heart.
But anyways, yeah, that's kind of a rough one.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Not all blind dates turn into this. Let's just say. Too.
Yeah, that's where I wish I had a story of one ending.
That was
and
happier.
Love after, happily ever after.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot online.
I mean, there was a girl named Cinderella.
But that wasn't a blind date, was it? Or no, he saw her shoe. What was it again?
They
like her
they
shoe is
danced
great.
at the.
He had
the
a foot
ball.
fetish. She was like, I need to find the
Ew.
owner of this foot. I mean, of the shoe. Oh, that was creepy. But, that's what it was. They danced. She left. Okay, so they knew each other a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. I mean, if you've had a good blind date story that ends in happiness,
that
please
would be nice.
tell us. That would make everyone feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you have tips or advice that maybe we didn't talk about or...
Yeah, because I've never used online dating.
Yeah, I've done a little bit. I think everyone dabbles, and there's a lot of like pictures that get sent around, at least for ladies, maybe guys too. I don't know. Not all of it is peaches and cream. That sounded really bad. Oh, that wasn't an innuendo. I was just trying to think of like happy thoughts, and that's what came. And then okay, I'm gonna stop talking because now I'm just innuendoing myself.
Innuendoing myself.
Anyways. Yeah. Thanks for living is what I was about to say.
Thanks for
My
living
goodness.
and listening.
Thanks for listening and
loving all the L words.
And no matter what they tell you,
you're not paranoid.
You're not paranoid. See ya.
Bye.
You can go to our website at you'renotparanoid.com. That's your spelled correctly, but no apostrophe. We're also on Instagram, You're Not Paranoid, and on Twitter, YNP Podcast.
One word?
One word.
Got it.
So the YNP, as in You're Not Paranoid Podcast. Do we have any other things?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, that's it.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.